Now, the reason your passion is different than your purpose is because I can accomplish my passion by myself. So if I love photography, I can become a photographer. If I love travel, I can go travel. I could do whatever I'm passionate and succeed at it. Your purpose is designed so you cannot accomplish it alone. You actually have to learn how to ask for help.
I'm Jeff Scult. I have been on a healing and revealing journey, following my thread to my inner gold. My great honor in life is to sit with the golden ones and discover what they've released in terms of their past stuck stories, what they've revealed in terms of who they are anew, and within that, how we can each celebrate the art of living life golden. Welcome to Drops of Gold.
Hey there, Golden Ones. This episode of Drops of Gold is powered by One Golden Thread, the regenerative nature fashion brand that I created from my mind's eye that we can all live in regenerosity. Enjoy the program, and we've got a special code for you later on to share. You are golden. We are all connected, better together as one golden thread. It is such an honor and a pleasure to have a man that's been described as a force of nature, a masterful coach, and a playful creator.
Oh, wow.
BC Serna. Welcome to Drops of Gold.
I accept that. Thank you so much.
So what would be the fourth leg of that stool that you would, as you arrive here today, what would be the fourth?
Man, I guess something to do with humor, man. I love making people laugh. I love laughing, having a good time. Playful, something, I don't know what else you said.
Oh, well, I said playful creator, but I love the lover of laughter because you, one of my favorite BC moments, actually, I think it was before we met in person, was, and I'll admit you, I was like fanboying because I watched this video on YouTube probably like a dozen times, and every time I laughed harder. And it was when you was teaching your son about how to shoot a bow.
Oh my God.
By the way, can you actually like remember and paraphrase like the way you were? Because it wasn't just that he was teaching you how to shoot a bow. By the way, his son was like probably at that time 6 months old.
Yeah.
And it was your performance. Yeah. Go.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, start your engines because this is, here we go.
I mean, I guess the go-to for me is my whole life is the Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura. So I think I was just in that moment of like, hey, little Bubba, I'm going to teach you how to shoot a bow today, and you're going to learn how to hunt and fend for yourself. And good luck. You'll be on your own soon. It was like this whole thing, and he was just looking at me, obviously not understand what I'm saying, and I just kept it going, and then shot the bow, and then he starts laughing, and it was like a whole thing. That's right. That's so funny because that's kind of what connected us right before that.
It was, and I reached out to you, and I'm just like, look, your energy is infectious.
Oh, man.
You are such a genuine article, and your son's looking at you like I just hit the lottery.
Oh man. Well, I think the beautiful thing that you checked that out was because my content can sometimes be a little like serious sometimes, and about healing and other stuff like that. Yeah. And then the goofiness, I don't know if you know, obviously know Blue, but Blue and I always have been like...
Shout out to Blue of Earth.
Yeah, shout out to Blue of Earth. If you got to have her on the next episode for sure. But one thing me and her have always had this connection is this humor of like when we're in a room sometimes and everyone's kind of being really serious and we can kind of, make that fart joke or like that little joke that's kind of like just eases the air out of the room. And just always bringing it back to like just play and laughter. And so what I'm saying is Blue and I's content can sometimes be a little, serious. And then every once in a while, me and her will go back and forth on these funny videos, which people end up actually receiving a lot better sometimes. Like they're like, oh man, this is the like relatability I can connect with.
Yeah. And by the way, like I agree with you. I've seen Blue do some of her old Madame voices, and I'm just like, how would you just throwing it down?
Yeah.
Let's actually go there because, consciousness can sometimes feel like concrete. Like it can feel, and I'll raise my hand. Like early on in my journey of of loving myself and embracing my shadow, it was heavy. And so how do we go deep and keep it light? Because I think there's something so beautiful, like that we get to see it all as life, and instead of that duality of like, wow, I mean, yeah, there's grief and there's pain and there's moments where we can really do it, and going deep is like sitting with it and being with it. And how have you navigated, and how do you coach masterfully where where it's all okay to be in that grief, and it's also okay to actually just be in the play?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good way to start. Man, that's one of my favorite conversations to have, because a lot of people sometimes in the trauma space, in the conscious space of awareness, I can get a little melancholy or a little bit like this, dramatic sense. But what I've learned is it's all a journey. It's like that hero's journey, that full circle. And we go on this journey of awareness of our relationship with our parents or our childhood selves or our relationship to friends or peers or culture. And what I've learned is every trauma gap that we close, before it closes, has to have some sort of sense of childlike play or wonder, which music, dancing, nature, like reintegrating the out of mind thought of like, man, my mom did this, my brother did this, my first boyfriend did this, and we're up here so much. And then it's like, hey, if you actually want to figure out what's going on, you got to go dance and play and laugh and jump in an ocean naked. And it doesn't make sense because it's like, well, that's not how we're supposed to do it. But it's actually, you'll learn so much through that cathartic movement that you'll go, oh, the point is not to get anywhere. It's to just in this laughter. Like, you know it's working when you can find those moments of laughter and play. And that's it, right? It's just so as present as you can get. When you're laughing with someone, you are sucked into the present moment. When you're surfing a wave, when you're dancing to music, there's no part of your brain is thinking of the past or future.
Wow. You've had so many powerful moments along your journey. And one of my favorite questions that really allows people to bring us into their journey wherever they care to along that journey is think about that moment where you were formed. Not where were you born, but where were you formed? Like where was that crystallis moment? And there's been perhaps many of those. But what's coming through for you?
Wow.
And then we'll go, or you could even take it if you choose. What's forming now?
Wow. So the question is, when did this kind of phoenix kind of burn, and then the rising kind of thing, or even before that, like what burned the phoenix down maybe? Man, that's a really great question. One thing I was thinking of recently was, so I have like an online program, and it's all about helping people find their soul tribes and healing and everything. And we've had over 300 people do it, and we're in the middle of one right now, and it's 35 people from like 14 countries. It's this really amazing online program. And it's beautiful, but a lot of people, are like, man, how did you find all these mentors, and how did you find, all these people? And I'm like, man, just through the most painful things you can ever imagine, of like the moment. I think what you're asking the question is after my dad died, I was about 24 years old. My dad died of cancer. And at the same time, I was living in this house with some friends, and we lost that house within the same like month and a half. And I just started living out of my car. I just kind of was like, I was mentoring inner city kids in Denver and volunteering at different places with videos and just like helping out nonprofits in Denver. And I started just sleeping out of my car, and I kind of just didn't have any sort of direction of if I wanted to live in another place, if I wanted to even live. And this one moment, I remember I was driving from like Boulder to Denver, and I could see the whole city, and I was driving to Denver, and I had no one to call, and I had nowhere I can go shower, and I had no friends. And it was just like, I saw the city of Denver, and I'm driving towards it, and I was just like, this is the worst feeling in the entire world. And it kind of like broke me of just not having one person to call, one place to go shower. I went and showered at the YMCA, but it just kind of like fueled this to make sure no one ever has to feel that. And that's kind of been that drive ever since. Of my whole kind of mission, I guess, is to help people feel seen, heard, loved, and encouraged. And that's just what fuels it. Is there's a lot of people out there that have that feeling of like, man, I got no one to call, I got nowhere to sleep, nowhere to shower, and I feel like kind of hopeless. And was in those moments of sleeping in my car, just being like, man, I got to make sure people don't ever feel this again.
Wow. And how did that also transcend to doing that from the inside out as opposed to the outside in? Because if we're constantly just in service to another, we're filling up their cup, and yet we're, without our even cognition, we're depleting our own. And so when you were in the car and you were going through that chrysalis, how did you come into that beautiful coherence as you described it on your website, which is everything changed in your life when you started believing yourself first?
Yeah, well, so that's another great question. And I like to, so that's a really common metaphor, is you can't pour from an empty cup. I think we've all heard that metaphor, that like, you got to fill your cup up before you pour into other cups, which I totally believe, and I understand 100% that metaphor. What I feel like I've come to learn is sometimes what actually fills our cup is pouring into other people. And so sometimes in the healing space or the conscious space, we can become so hyper focused on ourselves, of like getting our money first, getting our wife first, getting our success first, getting our followers first. And it's like, all right, once I get mine, then I'll go maybe serve and help and donate. And I think we've all heard that quote that's like, money only magnetizes who you are, and same with followers and same with attention and success. And so what I learned in my lowest moments was just to continue to serve. And what I found in my purpose was everything I was looking for, whether it was relationships or friendships or money or all that stuff, was actually found in just, it came to me after I served other people.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's so extraordinary, and it's beautiful, and it does make sense. And there's that expression, don't block your blessings. So what that means to me, because this has been something that was my shadow to embrace, which is I was in service to others, and then if anything was coming to me, I would block it because I wasn't worthy of that, and I was only worthy of that one because I needed to give more. And I realized that I was actually dis-easing myself.
Yeah, I feel like I've always done well at prioritizing like my health and my fitness and like my own mental health. So I feel like when I did show up, even though I might be struggling with my career or my finances or my romance, I still felt a level of groundedness of like, I'm eating healthy, I'm working out, I'm taking care of my my foundation, my spiritual life, and then showed up in other, you know what I'm saying? Like the things I can really control were really important. But then I would be volunteering, mentoring high school kids, and just teaching them basketball, helping out for free. And then one day a mom would come up to me, this beautiful mom, and is like, hey, BC, I don't know why, but God told me to give you this $550 and here you go. And that paid my rent next month, and didn't know I was struggling. She didn't know anything about my life. I didn't tell anyone about my life or my struggle. And so there was like those little moments, where you're like, oh wait, maybe this like formula of giving, there's still this universal, energetic, spiritual relationship to the getting back. It just looks a little bit maybe different to the mind or the culture.
There's just switching gears, and something you shared about your father. There's an expression that I didn't really understand what it meant until my mother transitioned in 2020, and they said that you don't really grow up until you lose a parent. Talk to us about what that was like for you, and how you've continued to draw on that in terms of just respect and gratitude and just a love of the vibrancy of the life that you're blessed with.
Yeah, man. Brother. Losing a parent, it's definitely the one of these raw spiritual experiences we can have, of the gratitude, and also missing the mark a little bit, of like the amount that one of the things I do in my programs, my trauma programs, it's a lot about forgiving our parents. And that if you look at 90%, maybe 80% of people who are traumatized, you go into their stories, it's the relationship with their parents that have most likely traumatized them. And so that's a really hard thing for people to find forgiveness or grace or let their parents back in their life. It's probably the hardest thing they'll ever have to do. And so one of my biggest missions in my programs and my curriculum and my pillars is reintegrating that relationship with your parents, not expecting them to change first, not judging them, not shaming them. And the biggest reason is like, I'm like, y'all, if I could have like just like some level of some level of awareness when my dad was still here, of just like how hard he probably tried, and how he just didn't even know how to communicate, how he didn't know how to, we just butted heads. He's Mexican, and so he had a really tough childhood too, and we just butted heads my whole life. And it wasn't until after I lost him that I, went on my own healing journey, and just, felt a lot of like, I wish, man, like, although we had that, I think in the spiritual realm since then, like we've definitely had a lot of alchemy in that, but just couldn't imagine a life where like I could have like thanked him in the physical. And so a big pillar of our trauma programs is like helping people realize what it is that they have with their friction with their parents, and what they can do to heal as much as possible so that they can love their parents without trying to change them, because the only thing that changes anyone is love. And I think a lot of us are expecting people to change before we can love them. And it's just like, you're not going to shame someone into change. Like you could tell your mom and your dad all the things they did wrong, but they know, like deep down they know, and they're really embarrassed and they're really ashamed, and they don't know how to say I'm sorry, and they don't know how to ask for forgiveness. They don't know how to be vulnerable. And so we just have to like be okay with that. And like they've hurt us maybe, and they've, done stuff, but like once we find enough wholeness in our community and ourselves, all we want to do is look at our mom and dad like they were 5 years old, because at one point they were. And at one point, like, they weren't loved, And when I think, sorry, but I think when you start to realize that your mom and dad didn't receive love in a way that they wish they did, and now we have culture and society with tools and therapy and like community and consciousness and plant medicines, like we are the luckiest generation in the world. We can't, like, man, our parents, they went 30, 40 years with no therapy, no community, no plant medicines, no awareness of like content that they can learn online about these kind of things. And so we are the healers of our parents. And then when we one day, if we create an offspring, if we want to, these kids won't have to know what hopefully that type of trauma looks like, But our parents did a lot. Like, even though we have a lot of pain towards our parents, I think in the spiritual realm, our parents excavated all of this land, and now we get to like taste I think our culture, our generation planted the seeds, and then our kids get to taste all the fruit. So like this next generation, this next evolution of humanity, these kids are going to be able to live in a conscious culture of hopefully unity. So, yeah.
Just want to honor your strength in your vulnerability. And there's no sorry ever in the worlds that we get to imbue and encourage, of being expressed and being expressed however that feels, wherever that flows. And so I just want to honor your vulnerability, and
I think we were going to go there so fast.
Oh, I just see so much. It's just so much power in that, and I mean, Man, tears are literally like the just waterfalls of love.
Yeah.
You know. What's your father's name?
Isaac. Yeah.
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 Tell us one of your favorite qualities of Isaac.
Man, he was just the funniest dude, man. He would get everyone on the he would be the first person on the dance floor, and then he would get everyone on the dance floor, and then he would be the first person on the karaoke machine and get, if you never sang karaoke, like if you're around my dad, you're singing karaoke that night. And
what was his go-to?
Oh, Journey, Def Leppard. Like I grew up.
Wait, like Pour Some Sugar on Me?
I mean, yeah, anything 80s rock. I grew up my whole life. I was backstage at 80s Rock's concerts. My dad was best friends with like these 80s rock bands, and I was 4 years old backstage at like Kiss concerts and Scorpions and all this stuff. And
you were the backstage kid.
Yeah, I mean, I saw like naked girls running around. I mean, I was just like 4 or 5 years old. I was like, what am I doing here? But it was, yeah, my dad was a wild one, and he was just a trip, man. Just
so wait, you were backstage. We got to go there.
Yeah, I've never really told this story. But it's funny.
You were backstage at Kiss. You were backstage at Kiss.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Tell us the story.
I've seen Kiss probably like 16 times. I mean, just that was my dad. He was best friends with the lead singer of Tesla. I don't know if you ever heard that 80s rock band. It's like,
no, but he makes a good car.
Yeah. So it was Tesla, Aerosmith. Like so I just grew up just randomly. My dad and I would go to all these shows, and
it was like a father-son gig. Or he bring the whole family.
No, it was just me. It was just me and my dad. What? Yeah, I had like a mullet, and it was just a funny childhood. Me and my dad kind of going to all these concerts, and I loved it. I loved 80s rock, man. Growing up, it was my life. Super funny.
I'm just like, what a cool thing to be backstage at Kiss. That's insane.
Oh yeah, and those guys are still going. I don't know how, because when I was doing it, they were still in like their 60s, and now they're still doing it. I'm like, what is going on? But yeah. So I think that was my dad, man. Is he knew how to like kind of just liven up the party.
Sounds like he's you and he have a through line of sucking the bone marrow out of life.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because you're. And by the way, again, shout out to Isaac.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say to Isaac in this? Because I love the fact that you've had like a full flash in.
Yeah.
And anything you want to say before we?
Anytime I have the privilege of making someone feel seen or dance or laugh, it's just my dad still living on. Like he's just, he transitioned in some way, but he's like still lives, man. Every time someone laughs, I just think of my dad.
Man.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful. Every time I hear somebody laugh, I think about my dad.
Yeah.
There's a song in there someplace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Epic. Well, we definitely share that version of a purpose, because my one golden thread didn't start out as a clothing company. It was a personal experience to remind that we're all golden inside, even if it's buried, no matter how much muck is covering up, and this notion that we all get to be expressed. And we all have a golden voice, and it's the gold that's inside us. It's the thread that unites us. So I love the fact that your mission is so powerful and potent. And maybe we can go there and talk about purpose, because I know purpose is a very powerful word for you. And I think that it's also a word that gets bandied about, of what does it even really mean. And it's this thing about find your purpose, and this thing which we can unpack as well, because I have a philosophy on that. But I'd like to just hear you take us on a journey of purpose.
Man, I guess the simplest way, purpose is this arbitrary kind of big thing. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming, or ridden with anxiety of I don't know what it is, and but passion and purpose I think are pretty different. And for me, seeking validation my whole life with sports, I was never I was okay, but I was never that good, so I was still wasn't.
Your sport was b-ball, right?
Basketball was my main, yeah. But okay. I played in high school. I played other sports and stuff.
Okay. So we share that as real. Basketball is my religion.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Phoenix Suns. Well, actually, basketball is my faith, and Phoenix Suns were my religion.
Wow.
Or vice versa. I don't know.
Dang.
Which, by the way, shout out to Mark Shapiro. Just took my team down, but he's producer. Mark
Minnesota.
Shapiro.
That's right. I know, dude. The Suns have had a tough run. I'm sorry about that, bro.
Could you help me through that trauma release?
Dude, yeah, let's talk about
All right,
that.
let's talk about that. But let's stay on this track because this is super important for our listeners, and we get to unpack this because I think that there can even, in full circle, there can be such a heaviness and a weight for am I on my path? Am I on my purpose? And is that old, almost like patriarchal thinking of that version of success, again, blocking our blessings of a discovery of something that could come from a different place versus a heady version of like, I got to find my purpose. And how do we do that?
Yeah. Well, so to go back to, I think just seeking validation, seeking a way to, not even validation, just to like fucking fit in. Like I didn't even know how to fit in growing up. I moved quite a bit. So I just didn't know what to wear. I was a skateboarder at one point, and then I started playing sports, and I was never good at skateboarding or sports. And I never, so I got bullied during the sport. So it was just tough to fit in. And my grades obviously weren't that good, dyslexic, all that stuff, ADD. And so it just never, I felt like I missed a meeting somewhere. Like I feel like somewhere along the way growing up, like third grade. So I was just like, and I was like, did I miss a meeting of like how to do this human life? Like, or like what am I missing here? Because I feel like I'm missing, I didn't have friends really. So anyway, lo and behold, I finally make my way to college to try to play basketball in Dallas, Texas, and I got injured.
What school?
A small school, like it's called Northlake. It was
okay.
Yeah.
I tried to walk on at SMU.
SMU. I was going to transfer there, but that's funny.
By the way, like a short Jewish kid trying to walk on at SMU, they laughed at me after the first day. They were like, go back to rec.
Yeah, they were probably going to laugh at me, and then I went to a smaller school. But so I got injured, and then out of nowhere, I got this miracle where I got offered to do a study abroad program and travel the world for 6 months at 19. So I went around the world, and for the first time in my life, I tasted what purpose is. I tasted what, like, because my whole life I was told I was a failure when you fail at all your classes. I was, like I said, mediocre at sports. So I didn't know there was one good quality about me. Like, and so when I started traveling the world and I was living in these orphanages and it was like a accredited program helping nonprofits, I was just like, wow. And then people around the world would be like, oh, you're very outgoing. You're very optimistic. And I was 19. This was 16 years ago. And I was like, what? This is so weird to have like these, like people affirming something that like I kind of thought I was a broken record somewhere. I thought I was going to just be working at a regular place my whole life. And I just tasted what it felt like to help someone, to give back. And then I got a job with that study abroad program. So then I took college students around the world for 3 years. And so from 19 to 22, I was organizing college students to go do nonprofit work all around the world. And it was the dream job. It was the coolest job in the entire world. So anyway, lo and behold, I started tasting what purpose felt like, because what I felt like the other fruits of the world, whether it was money or success or fame, they never really tasted like purpose. Because I would say, I guess I left that world at one point and then tasted other different fruits. And the one that tasted the sweetest was purpose, man. Like doing something for someone else. It just always like had like this texture of like real flavor. It was almost like black and white and color. And when I was doing something for other people, it just felt like it was like more exciting because it wasn't so self-focused, I believe. Yeah. And then, I guess transition, in those years, I created a program called Pursuing Purpose. And the whole concept was just me for 11 years pursuing purpose, was pursuing serving people and helping people. And how what I've learned is that if you look at like a bunch of knobs on a computer and there's like anxiety and depression and fear and doubt, all of those are usually pretty high on our brains. But what I've learned is when you're serving, when you're volunteering at a homeless shelter or helping animals at a rescue shelter or helping kids get education across the world or clean water, all of those knobs of comparison just get turned down. Like all of them are like, I'm actually not, it doesn't matter how good looking I am or how much money I have or what I haven't done in my life, because like I'm actually the most blessed human on the planet. Like you work with kids in a hospital that have leukemia, you work enough with homeless kids or homeless shelters, you work a lot with like kids in Africa. You actually start to just vibrate at this frequency of gratitude, because you're like, I have it all. I have legs that, you don't have to think about it anymore, because you just vibrate at gratitude. And so I feel like when we serve in purpose, all of the fears about how we look or our car or our bank account kind of just go out the window. And I don't think Mother Teresa really was ever being like, what shoes am I going to get next week? Like I don't think that was on her, to-do list. But yeah, so I guess that's one view lens to like kind of look at purpose in some sense.
It's beautiful because, the way you're defining purpose, is service.
Yeah.
And so it creates a very wide swath to be able to be in service to your children, be in service to your partner, be in service to the world, and it becomes almost more like as easy as breathing. And
embodiment.
And it's embodiment.
That's what I think, to get to where I was trying to go to, is I think purpose is embodying it. That's what it is. I think at the end of the day, you embody this sense of peace that if you see someone at the grocery store reaching for something, it's not even I'm going to get that for you. You see someone broken on the side of the road, I'm going to go help them with their tire. Like,
so for somebody who's unsure what their purpose is, how do they go about accessing
that math? Yeah. Well, it depends on what part of their journey they're on, for sure. But I would say the easiest way to figure out what your purpose is find out what has been the hardest part of your life and work backwards from there. So for me, in high school, I think I literally had maybe one friend, and that was towards the end of high school. I got really lucky. But I didn't have any really friends in high school, and it was really hard for me. I moved a bunch, and I didn't know what I was supposed to have. I'm wearing skateboard clothes, but I'm at a football practice. I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And so for 10 years, from 19 years old to 30 years old, I worked with over 4,000 high school kids in like mentoring programs, and I used to host little programs with high school kids would come, and I just worked with as many high school kids as I possibly could, and just giving them that breath of like, you got this, like someone's in your corner. Yeah. How do you find your purpose is asking what the hardest part of your life has been at that moment of your life. And so for instance, like I said, high school, when I was in my 20s, I was 22 years old, I asked what my purpose was. And at that moment, it was, my high school life was so hard for me. So I went and did that. At 30 years old, I asked and throughout my 20s, I also was like asking what breaks my heart the most. And at that part, it was like kids in, parts of the world that didn't have access to clean water. So I was doing that as well. And then I turned 30 years old, and I go, okay, I'm 30 now. What was the hardest part of my 20s? And I go, well, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a community. I didn't have a curriculum to understand my trauma and my limiting beliefs, my identity. So I'm going to build that for 20-year-olds. And I did that. And that's what I created Pursuing Purpose and my online programs. So, just really asking yourself, what's been hard? And if someone's like, oh, my mom was a single parent, boom, go find single parents and just find ways to help them. Now, the reason your passion is different than your purpose is because I can accomplish my passion by myself. So if I love photography, I can become a photographer. If I love travel, I can go travel. I could do whatever I'm passionate and succeed at it. Your purpose is designed so you cannot accomplish it alone. You actually have to learn how to ask for help. And that is one of our hardest. Dude, we were talking about this yesterday. I was asking, you got to ask your community to come help you with a store, and how hard it is for our human biology to literally, and our souls, just be like, I need help, guys. I need some support. It would be a huge blessing for me. And so our purpose has this pothole in it of we need to ask people for help, because once we get the affirmation of success with our purpose and someone goes, man, you changed my life, or that program you created changed my life, or that this thing, you can't accept a compliment, because there's a whole team of people behind you, or God, or whatever it is. And you just kind of like, that your purpose can't be attached to your ego, because it took so many people for you to create your purpose, whether it was your friend who built the website or the logo or the people who gave you the event space. Like, so many things had to happen for your purpose to come to life, for you to help people, that your ego doesn't even feel like accepting the compliment for it. And so if someone's like, yo, your passion, your photography is great, I'm like, oh, cool, I took those photos, I trained myself. But your purpose, and that's why it's so hard. Everyone's purpose is so hard, because you have to go ask your friends and your family to donate. You have to ask your friends and family to help build your website or your logo, or like, you have to ask for help for your purpose.
So I think we just hit the first pocket of Drops of Gold when we dropped the gold mic.
Yeah.
Because what you just said, I'm gonna repeat it back to you, because it literally it's a drop of gold for me.
Okay.
And we'll see if others agree. Your purpose has a pothole until you ask for support.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. So at this point in the episode, my co-spirator is invited to make the sound of the golden mic drop. What's that sound?
I have to make any sound?
Any sound that's the sound of the golden mic drop.
Just like a random sound?
It's not random to you. Close your eyes and just whatever comes out.
A sound. Okay. I'm trying to think of a sound.
Dude, that's the thing. You don't think about it. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and just whatever comes out.
That's funny. A sound. I mean, my favorite, I guess like when I'm teaching Phoenix how to hunt, I go, and like I teach him how to throw the spear. So that would be my sound probably. That's close. That's good. That's good.
That's it. That's pretty good. All right. Your purpose has a pothole until you ask for support. I fucking love that, dude, because that's so. That's for me. That is so resonant and relevant and transcendent, to just give ourselves permission to see, like, no, your fans are waiting. Your community is desirous to see you thrive. Your community is in it with you. Maybe your community doesn't even know you. But for you to put your purpose out there, and your purpose has a pothole until you ask for support.
Yeah.
And so flip the script. So what happens? What happens when that happens? What happens when that happens? When the purpose that had a pothole, now you ask for support. What happens when that happens?
Well, I think, for instance, I think you get really proud and excited for One Golden Thread when you guys plant trees, right? Like, how good does that feel to give oxygen to the future children, the earth, the beauty of a tree? And that part of the journey for you of like, yeah, seeing people in your clothes is awesome, and having this, this beautiful brand. But the fact that like every time you see someone in your clothes, or maybe I see someone in your clothes, I'm like, oh, that's freaking 3 trees right there. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? And so it adds this another dimension of like give back that feels so, just better. Like, you just feel like it's better than sometimes making the money or seeing that person in your shirt. It's just like, no, we changed the world together. We brightened the world. We gave future critters a home. We gave future children shade, all these different things of just like, so adding that element to any part of our life just becomes so, like I said, it adds almost black and white, because how many clothing brands exist? Millions of clothing brands. How many clothing brands care enough to plant, a tree per item? Very few. And so it becomes this universal movement of like, not only do we get excited when we see it, but we get excited because of what became of it. And the cool thing is, most kids that would be playing under that tree don't know who planted that tree. There'll never be some sort of like carving in that tree, One Golden Thread, because BC bought these tree pants, right? And that is the humility of purpose. Is there's someone who's changed my life that they have there's someone who's changed my life in a way that I have been able to change other people's lives, and they have no idea. This guy, Brandon, he took me out to lunch once when I was a junior in high school, Brandon Wheeler. And he just gave me hope, man. I remember he just gave me so much hope, and he gave me one taste of mentorship when I was in high school by taking me out to lunch, bought me a Chipotle and everything. And I was just like, who's this 25-year-old good looking dude buying me it was a youth group kind of thing. And that moment I was like, I want to make and so when I started taking all my high school kids out to lunch, I remember I'd buy all of them lunch, and that Brandon has no idea that he helped buy that one lunch he bought me, helped buy probably 250 lunches for high school kids.
That's the model of how love multiplies. Okay, friends, a bit of real on my journey. What happens when we start something not with a agenda or even a business plan, yet a vision and a mission and a vibration? And I started one golden thread. I wanted to wrap the world with a golden thread. And I went around the world and I tied golden threads on people's wrists, and I invited them into conversation to remind them that the gold resides inside every one of us, and the gold inside us is the thread that will unite us. And what came to be was I wanted to wrap not just the world with the golden thread, I wanted to wrap humans with the golden thread, because I realized that actually, ironically enough, was closing us off from feeling. And we can open ourselves up to well-being. This is one golden thread. It's an honor and a blessing to have an offering to the world that reminds people to look good, feel good, and then do good by doing nothing more than wearing what they love. We have a special code for you for one golden thread. It's called Drops of Gold at checkout for 22% off first-time purchase. Welcome to the family. We are golden, all connected, better together as one golden thread.
Yeah.
Tell us a story of a time, it could be time recently, that somebody stopped and looked at you and told you a heartfelt reflection of how you have amplified, magnified their life.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, so a story of someone telling me that I've impacted them?
Where you actually allowed yourself to receive with ease, and you stood there and you received it, as opposed to deflecting it, which is such a human condition, which we all do. And the gift, well, I'll share with you a quick little reason why I'm asking the question after you share what you care to share.
Well, what I've learned for me personally is I appreciate when someone can say that to me, like, hey, BC, you really impacted my life. You changed my life. But now my highest excitement in life is when I empower someone in their purpose, and someone comes up to me and goes, yo, Whitney changed my life. Or Whitney tells me that someone, does that make sense? Like, kind of like the fact that like now someone is changing someone's life because of me. That's when you know you're a leader. That's when you build leaders, right? When you build healers. And so I think for me, that's probably the epitome of, and this is such a full circle thing right now. And this is true. So Mark Shapiro is in the audience right now. And Mark Shapiro had this thing called Winning Weeks way back in the day. And I remember seeing it when I met him, and I wasn't in it, I don't believe, but I remember getting this hope of what he was doing with this online community, and it gave me the blueprint to do it. So he probably doesn't, you probably don't know this story.
I know.
He doesn't know it. So so think about this full circle. Mark Shapiro has probably impacted who knows amount of people's lives, thousands of people's lives. And this full circle, if you guys don't know Mark Shapiro, he's now on camera, he's on the podcast. You can't really see him if you're listening. But this was probably, when were you doing Winning Week? 7 years ago?
Probably like 2016 to 2018.
How many years is that? 8?
8 years ago.
7.
Yeah.
So he does this thing called Winning Weeks, and it was this online program with people from all around the country and world, probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the first time in my mind, I thought I always had to mentor people in person, and it was the first time in my mind I go, whoa, this guy's doing it online. He's mentoring people online, and it literally planted my seed of doing everything I've done. So think about Mark Shapiro, the 300 plus people who've come through my program. Mark Shapiro has a fingerprint in that. And people in the program don't know Mark Shapiro's name, but they have Mark Shapiro to thank. And so when you think about that craziness of Mark Shapiro living in his purpose and in his power and his truth, affects people he's not even in his, like, he's focused on his winning weeks community, and then over here some 28-year-old kid sees him doing it and then gets inspired to go do it and now impacts 300 plus people in the last like 5 years. How crazy is that? That wasn't even his job, or that wasn't even his focus. And so who knows what people are doing looking at us, you know? But like, how crazy is that full circle that he's here right now? And everyone in the Pursuing Purpose programs, you have Mark Shapiro to thank. Like, he's got a fingerprint in Pursuing Purpose.
Letting this land. Definitely was not expecting this. I haven't seen BC in a little over a year.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Never heard this before. And man, it just feels so good. Thank you for sharing that. I obviously had no idea. And I just do my best every day. And some days are better than others, and I face my own hardships. So to hear that and to know that there's a ripple impact in my impact, like I can't even use words to describe what that makes me feel. So thank you for sharing that with me. And thank you for being inspired and for paying it forward.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Well, and hold on, let's just stay in this for a minute, because this is so powerful around this notion around purpose. Okay, because to find your purpose by with linearity means that, okay, now I'm just going to stay in this lane with doing this one thing. Mark Shapiro, okay, was doing winning weeks, but before that he was doing Are You Being Real? A commitment of 250 episodes. My first podcast, by the way, what I still go back and listen to, it is so fucking magical. And he's in service to humanity to be their highest self and to be connected. This is a man that does not miss a birthday and gives video messages each morning as a matter of his practice to live his purpose. He's now amplifying that same philosophy through Love Bomb and Lifeboat, which are tools for us to be connected to those that we most hold dear. And I'm honored that I brought Michael Jordan off the bench, who's now the producer of Drops of Gold. So that version of a clear-cut butcher, vegan if you want to go that way, but clear-cut butcher to the soul of saying, like, that's what I'm going to do, and it can look any number of different ways.
Amen.
Along that journey.
Amen.
So the ripple effect is real. Mark Shapiro is a perfect example of what love looks like when you put it into practice every single day.
Thank you both. What I feel inclined to share, I'm like, this is the BC episode. It's not the Mark Shapiro. But what I feel inclined to share is that winning weeks was something that I dreamed of, that we all have goals and areas of our lives that we could use more accountability in. And if we could just declare those goals and have the support of our communities to go out and accomplish them, like, what would that mean for ourselves? And it was really hard to build that program, like to recruit people and to keep it going. And I had about 200 people go through it, but I burnt out from it. And in terms of like looking at, was it a success or was it a failure? It wasn't a sustainable, successful business. But sometimes things aren't, they don't unfold the way that we think. But to know now from what you've shared with me that inspired you to then pay it forward to impact all these other people's lives, that is incredible meaning. And I think that just a beautiful philosophy in life, that sometimes we're going after something because we think it's supposed to accomplish our own goals or our own like financial endeavors, but sometimes things don't look the way that they're supposed to and still have purpose and forward and benefit others. So
amen.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Amen.
Yeah. Shout out to Mark Shapiro,
dude.
So what's cool? So many things were cool about that, by the way. That was amazing. He's definitely in the show notes. We definitely need to get a picture of the three of us. What is so
potent about that is sometimes maybe what we can do is to release the expectation around duration. Like the fact that winning weeks didn't last, for generations as a program, I will raise my hand and I will say that it ignited me and gave me structure and confidence and also accountability to do what I said I was do. And the podcast took 7 years to finally birth it, but I did it and we're doing it, and one golden thread and the things that we're doing. And so I just love the fact that it's not always going to look the way that maybe sometimes we expect it to. And that version of like self-compassion and also like self-joy. And I think we're going back to like, where I was going to go when you were talking about purpose, which is like, maybe the real magic of this is like, is not to be so hard on ourselves about like this, have this be like so corded around, is it happened yet? Is it happening now? Is it happening now? Like my father, his thing is, hey, look, ask, instead of asking why, from a place of judgment, which is what we can sometimes do as adults, ask why from a place of childlike curiosity, and also ask why not, and be curious and play with your food and do all those things. And so sometimes I think, the ways that we'll discover purpose and what's next isn't by like a spreadsheet or a distillation. It's going to be from traveling the world, and maybe we can actually, or traveling in our inner world or our outer world. And within that, I'm super curious as somebody who has really gotten so much from the tapestry of humanity by traveling around the world. Dude, you've gone to 80 countries. At least that's what's
something
listed.
like that.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know where to go with that outside of like, wow. And maybe you can tell us a story of, it's not about the best, because it would be like saying you have 80 children and maybe you love them for different reasons. But maybe what you can do is take us on a little rapid fire. And what's a place that awed you from a place of beauty? Boom. Just don't even think about it. What comes through?
Oh man. I gotta think about that, bro. You're talking about 80. You're talking about the world, bro. Place of beauty. Oh, I don't even know where to start, man. I mean, dude, the Himalayan mountains, Nepal, the Himalayan mountains, you're just like, what am I looking at now?
Did you trek? Did you do a class?
Yeah, I went to base camp of Everest, and you're walking through these mountains and you can't barely breathe, but you're just like, this is from a movie or a video game or something like that. But I would say, yeah, travel, man. If you just, it opens up. And we all know that, us. But like people who just haven't really tasted that experience yet. I got really lucky because I went from bubbled American, 19 years of my life, not knowing the difference between Switzerland or Sweden or Taiwan and Thailand. I was just like, you couldn't tell me where these countries are. And then by the grace of God, I got this scholarship to the study abroad program, traveled the world, and it was just off to the races, and got really lucky. But I think the one moment that probably changed my life forever was early on in my travels. I was 19 still, maybe 20 at this time. Went to the Philippines to organize a study abroad program. And everywhere I traveled, I stayed with host families. So I stayed with over 200 host families. So when I went to a country, I wasn't just in a country. I was living with the people, with their language, their food, their home. And this host family in the Philippines, they found me, was in the slums. And so it was like this little tiny shack of a house, there was still like a door and tile and stuff, but it was this tiny little, it was like right next to like a sewage in Olongapo, the Philippines. And it was 2 little rooms, but my host mom gave me her room, and she went and slept with her 4 kids. And there, some nights it was just rice for dinner, and the kids, everyone's happy. I mean, you're like in these third world countries, developing countries, people are usually happier than most countries doing people well. So we were laughing every night, telling jokes. They were teaching me Tagalog and telling me about the food and the culture. And then one day I was like, why did you want to host me? Like the house is kind of small and, sometimes we eat rice, like, and the host mom was like, well, I just knew my kids would never be able to travel the world. And so I thought I'd bring the world inside my home. And I've never really told that story, but that kind of changed my perspective, thinking in America or developed countries, wealthier countries, we have 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms, and never in a million years would we like have ourselves sleep in our kids' room or our kids sleep in our room. And this mom just knew that her kids will probably never be able to leave the Philippines. And so just making that sacrifice and hosted me for like 3 months. And that for me kind of changed it all. So I made my family start hosting people from them. I told my mom and dad at that time, my dad was still around. I was like, hey, you guys, there's host programs. You guys are hosting people from around the world, because I've stayed with over 200 host families. So you don't have anything to say about it. So they started hosting people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, one of the things I love about travel is it will definitely tap your inner child. And let's go there, because you have such a inner childlike joy of the way that you live and you love. I'd love to know about your beautiful son, Phoenix, and your beautiful son, Koa, which, by the way, you got to tell everybody what those names mean to you, because they're both like incredibly fiery. I'm from Phoenix. I have grown to appreciate the true metaphor of the constant that we all get to rise from the ashes. We all get to let something go. And so there's a beautiful message there. And also Koa is like, warrior.
Or yeah.
So come on.
Yeah. Well, so Phoenix, like I said, we had a bunch of different names kind of, and his name is Phoenix Skywalker. So that's his middle name.
Does he ever? I can't wait for him to go like straight face. First day of high school. Yeah, my name is Phoenix Skywalker Serna.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah. So
please take the front seat.
Yeah. Right. Freaking Jedi. So we, like I said, we had different names, and as we were telling Isa, my partner, her family's from Lebanon.
Yes.
We told her Lebanese family, like, we're like saying, I don't remember the other names, but we said Phoenix at one point, and they were all like, oh, that's the spiritual bird of Lebanon. So Lebanon has been through so many civil wars that they always rise from the ashes.
Wow.
And so most people in Lebanon have like a phoenix tattoo, and like she forgot that. So she did, when we were saying Phoenix, she forgot that it's a spiritual symbol of Lebanon. And then her family was like, I mean, that's the spirit. And then so we kind of were like, oh, I mean, right when her brother said that, I was like, oh, that's his name, the spiritual bird of Lebanon, then that's got to be it. And then she wanted, a lot of names these days are kind of too serious. Like, once again, the conscious community. So she was like, how about Phoenix Spirit or Phoenix Soul? And I was like, yo, Phoenix is already spiritual. I was like, it's got to be something funny. And she goes, what do you think? And I literally was kind of like playing with, like Yoda or something like that. And then I go, I think I'm going to do Skywalker. And she's like, my family would never allow that. And I was like, I don't care. She goes, what about Phoenix Sky? Everyone has these kids' name is Sky. And I was like, listen, the part of him is he's going to bring humor to people. He's going to bring laughter to people. So we have to incorporate that into his name of like Skywalker, like this Star Wars, phenomenal like Jedi. And so that's what we went with. And it was at the moment where he was born and they were signing the birth certificate. And she's like, you sure we can't do Sky? I was like, yeah. And then so they signed it. They were all laughing. And then this is the funnier part. So Koa's middle name is Obi-Wan. But no. It was going to be Obi-Wan. We changed it. So it was going to be, we thought about Koa Kenobi. Yeah. So that would have been like something cool. Koa Kenobi. Koa Obi-Wan Kenobi would have been a little too extra. But we ended up going with Koa King because he's a Leo. But Koa was, just this beautiful, we were looking for a different name of lion because we loved the Leo symbol so much. And so we thought about Simba. That might have been a little too, Simba a little too like everyone knows, because it does. Simba actually in Swahili means king or lion. Yeah. So we were looking for lion in a different language. Yeah. And so we looked around, and then we found Koa meant lion. And then we also met in Hawaiian, it means warrior. And so, and then King kind of came from, I think, the Lion King.
So let's actually go back to his family. So who presented Skywalker?
So the good news is her parents don't know what it means. So they don't know what they don't know the movies. They're from Lebanon. So they were like, cool, that's interesting. Her brother knew, obviously, so we never had to like cross that ship that it's a, fictional character. But
oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that was fun. So I kind of always I wanted to like lighten the hardness of the overcomplication sometimes of names.
I feel like that's also part of really your purpose, is to lighten the hardness.
Yeah, 100%.
Might be a drop of gold. Might be a gold mic drop.
No, 100%.
Wait, no, it's yeah. So tell us about Koa and Phoenix, of what have you learned about this whole notion of inner child from them for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, my inner child has been, healed and relieved in a way that he's, has anytime can take over the driver's seat and just play and laugh and have that freedom. Doing as much work as you can before having a kid is very important. I cannot encourage people enough to just slow down on having kids. And I think the new paradigm is shifting towards that way, where I think this beautiful, like, even marriage, man, like me and my friends call it the George Clooney, of just like, just enjoy life, succeed. And then down that road, man, like get married and have kids, like push it as far back as you can. And so, what was the question? What have they taught me about inner child?
Yeah.
I mean, kids are supposed to break things and knock things over and yell and scream and jump on tables and climb things. Like that's what they're supposed to do. Everything's an experiment. Everything is different for them. And so us getting mad at a kid for climbing a coffee table is just kind of ludicrous, where it's like, so my boundaries with my kids is very open, of like, you'll figure it out. If you fall and get hurt, we'll figure this out together. Because I know what the primal nature of childlike wonder and curiosity and imagination and play has to do with our realms in our life. So for me, my goal is to be the banks to the river of my kids. They're the river, and I'm just supposed to be the banks to kind of keep them in that river. But the moment you try to build a dam or control the river or force the river in a direction, that kid is just crippled. And until like that healing down the road, they'll do some trauma healing, go to therapy and find, healing. They'll be like, oh, this is my river. My parents forced me down education or sports or not being loud or not being funny or creative. And so all we need to do as parents is the greatest gift any parent can give their kids is a parent learning how to regulate their nervous system. The more parents can have awareness of am I projecting that my kid shouldn't be doing this, or like, is this how my parents taught me? Is this my culture being like, my kid can't be climbing that thing in the grocery store or whatever it is? I just think we need to learn how to regulate our nervous system, and the faster we can be triggered and not have to take it out on our kids. I mean, my son will take a pretty hard fall at a park, and all these parents will freak out and jump up, and I'll calmly stand up, slowly walk over, not react, not respond, not freak out. I'll slowly pick him up. I'll be, hey buddy, you good? And all these parents are, and this is multiple times, it's not just one, this is multiple times, multiple parks, and parents are like, you could see how their nervous system is by even when their kid doesn't fall. And I just, no matter, my kid could do the hardest fall, and I slowly stand up, slowly walk over, slowly pick him up. I'm like, what's up, buddy? I'm so sorry, man. And just having that awareness is important.
Man, it's such a beautiful reminder and construct. Is this notion around regulating our nervous system first. I really appreciate that, and also the perspective of the banks of the river. It's a very, very beautiful metaphor, and as somebody who's born, who's conceived on the side of the river, it's their favorite body of river.
Wow.
Water. And my playa name that was gifted me was River. I have a deep appreciation, and particularly given that if you think of water as energy, without those banks to the river, energy goes everywhere. And as Stario Hope, a friend of mine, coined, create containers for things to thrive. And so what you're doing is you're creating those banks of river. I love that. And it also gives perspective and patience, and it's a beautiful, beautiful way to go. Before we wrap up this incredible romp, which I know won't be our last time we do this, I just have to compliment you that when you do your stuff on your IG, you always look fresh as hell. What are you wearing?
Oh, dude, don't even get me started, brother. Man, it's funny. My relationship to clothes over my whole life, and my relationship to One Golden Thread since we met, since I discovered it and connected with it. And man, it's funny to promote something because you're like, oh man, is this what is he getting? Who's paying the bills? But for me, man, it's so natural and it's so comfortable, and it's so like it's like your goal in life when it comes to clothing is to be comfortable. That's your end goal. The fact that One Golden Thread makes you look good while you're comfortable is like, we're killing two birds with one stone. Because I used to be a little too comfortable. People didn't know if I was homeless or if I was a freaking, surfer dude. But I remember just always comfort was everything for me. Once you learn how to heal and regulate your nervous system, you kind of stop playing the game of, what do I need to be wearing? What do I need to look like? What do I need to do to fit in and belong? And when I found One Golden Thread, it was just this like synchronistic unity of excitement of like, oh man, this just feels good. And it feels like, man, it sounds so weird, but I think for me, I was always cheap when it come to clothes. I was raised lower middle class. And so for me, I was buying cheap clothes, not knowing that clothes hold a frequency and a vibration. And when you buy cheap clothes, you wear cheap energy. And so my whole life, basically, I was like, all right, how do I need to save money? Not really realizing that my level up was in the confidence of my clothes and in the vibration of my clothes. And I even tell this to people when I'm doing trauma work. If you're going through a divorce or a breakup, get rid of all those clothes. It holds energy. It holds vibration. And if slavery is stitched into the fabric of your clothes, you're buying $14 shirts from Amazon every month because it's wearing out. There's little kids that are there's no such thing as a cheap pair of clothing. If you're buying a cheap pair of clothing from any store, there is 100% a child sewing that or a woman getting paid 10 cents. And so that's a fact. That is 100% a fact. I've seen these. I've been to Bangladesh. I've been to India. I've been to China. I've seen them up close. There's no such thing as a cheap pair of clothing. With every dollar that you save on a pair of clothing, you are disempowering someone on the other end of that. And so when I started flipping that script with actual quality, I've owned these pants for years, over 2 years. I still wear them. I have my green shirt that I think everyone knows me for, because I literally I just got this one, and now people ask me questions like, yo, you're gonna get into an outfit sometimes. But I'm doing the whole, I guess you could say, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs kind of approach, where it's like, yo, choose the thing that you don't have to think about when you get out of the shower, and you put it on, and then just do that every single day. Because the last thing on your mind should be, what am I wearing today? And I've just done that, where I think I have 8 tops from you guys and 2 pants, and it's just easy for me every single day. And when I get a compliment, I'm like, oh man, you don't even know, you're about to be comfortable. Like, you're about to be comfortable looking good. And how many times have people been trying to look good and they're not comfortable in it? So
respect.
Golden mic drop there.
I look, it's there's a hierarchy here. We're not here to sling clothes. We're here to, clothe the kingly souls.
Amen. Wow.
And it's a powerful thing, the thoughts we're thinking, the words we're speaking, the food we're eating. And the forgotten frontier no longer was what the clothes we're wearing.
Yep.
And
wow.
It's a powerful thing to remember that we have 4 million sensors in our body, and yet clothes was actually closing us off from feeling. And it's been a blessing, to go on this material journey. And this is not something we're buying off a rack in terms of, the fabric. I went on a material journey to discover the most ethical, benevolent fabrics and fibers, and I found 2 and I knitted them together and created the One Golden Thread, either nature's cashmere feeling or the thinner fabric that feels like nature's silk. And the fact that we can create, all of us can create businesses that become a collective force for social good. It's not transaction, it's transcendence.
Amen.
And that, there's I loved what you said about, there is no such thing as cheap clothes, because what's the actual true cost?
Yeah.
And, that thing that we wear all the time that becomes like a uniform of conscious feeling, conscious living, you could actually ask yourself, like, what's the least expensive thing in your closet? It's actually the thing you wear all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Boom.
if you did a cost per wear on these,
oh my God,
like, it's just like,
oh my, you can't even imagine. That's what I'm telling people. It's like, yo, you can add my one golden thread wardrobe together, the price, and then you could add yours, and yours would triple it.
Yeah.
It just seems different.
Yeah. And I loved what you also brought up earlier in the episode about regenerosity and planting. And you're right. It's not about the fact that we planted 91,000 trees, which is amazing. It's about that we planted one.
Yeah.
By one, by one, by one. And that everyone who's wearing a tree shirt, it's like, yeah, you planted a tree. You planted two. You planted three. And that for me is like this new version of business, which is like, it's not about the thing. It's our relationship to the thing.
Yeah.
And what's our relationship to everything that we do.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're
and the
all
community.
Going. Yeah. I mean, look, my favorite, honestly, the thing that just gooses me to let's be honest, it makes my nipples hard, because that's, when something hits me in my crown and my toes, I assume everybody's this way, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
It lands in my nipples. It's just like truth.
Yeah.
And I get so jazzed when I hear people that don't know each other, who see somebody else in the world, one golden thread, and they have a conversation and a connection. And it's almost like a no asshole club.
Yeah.
Because everybody who seems to be wearing the threads is like a good human being, because guess what? They've invested in themselves first. And this is not about ego clothes. This is about we go clothes.
Yeah, 100%. It's the only gift I buy friends. Like when I'm not a gift giver. If you know me, I don't do gifts really. I can do like community gifts, but like when I'm buying someone a gift that I really love, it's easily either the duster or a shirt. It's the best gift, because it's like, yo, you just congratulate. Like, this is the best gift you're gonna get, because you're actually gonna freaking use it and wear it and value it. And
it goes back to your mission, because it's just about, go hug yourself.
100%.
Just go hug yourself.
Yeah.
Seriously. By the way, for those that are watching on YouTube, you might wonder why, like, I'm completely like, look like I was just, I don't know, plastering a wall.
Yeah.
It's because I have been.
Probably were.
And why? Because the original intent of One Golden Thread was not about clothing. It was around a golden thread connecting us all. And it was around community. And it was around connection and conversation and coherence. And by the time this episode is live, we will be live as our flagship on Abercrombie.
Wow.
And it's about coming together. We're going to have a Zen outdoor tea lounge in the back for talks.
Cool.
For
That's
music,
amazing.
for gatherings.
That's the goal, right?
Experiential retail in the front, and doing it in partnership. Shout out to Juan Pablo Heredia.
Yeah.
Next level.
Yeah.
And come on through and see what sparks for you.
Amen.
Brother, this has been, well, actually, because there's got to be something you either you'd like to share as a parting thought, a question you want to pose, a drop of gold.
I think to kind of have the same thread of what you were just saying. So I work a lot with people with they're chasing their entrepreneur dreams or goals, starting a company, starting a brand, and they get really stressed. They get really anxious. They get really overwhelmed. Sales, margins, all these different things. And I was recently talking to this group. They had this clothing company, and I had to remind them that the product is great. It's an amazing thing to sell product, but the goal of the product is to get you to connect with, to be able to connect with someone's heart. So say they're at a trade show and they have these hats. The hats are great. Someone's going to come buy a hat. That's dope. It's going to keep their head warm. But the goal is the person who comes up and talks to you and you get to talk to them about their life. That is the goal, right? So anything that we're creating, whether it's coffee, whether it's a clothing company, whether it's skateboard, anything, the goal of creating it is so we can connect with someone's heart and story. And so I want anyone to know, if you're creating a company, the goal is connection. So you can have the sweetest hoodie or the sweetest hat or shirt or coffee company, but always come back to the purpose is to connect with someone's heart and story. And if you can keep coming back to that, get out of your way of the endless scrolling of social media and marketing and scaling it, then you'll be able to enjoy the journey much longer. So I just want to encourage people, if you're starting a company, to enjoy the journey. Just remember, connection is the end goal.
Thank you for joining us on Drops of Gold. We trust you found listening as delightful as we found creating. Now let me tell you, it takes a village to nourish a dream. Big shout outs to One Golden Thread for powering the pod, to co-producers Mark Shapiro, Josh Robertson, and Victory for bringing it all to life, Kat Benzova for her stunning guest portraits, and special thanks to artist Taib for featuring his electrifying new track, Departures. And infinite love to you for your curiosity and commitment to living in your highest vibrational truth. Aho, here we grow. We are all designed to be reminded we are already golden inside. I'm Jeff Scult, wishing you a radically yes fuck yes day. Ashe.
TV.